there. Yes, my name's Nicola Branch. I've been involved with the Hillsborough Justice campaign for a few years now. I remember watching the Hillsborough disaster unfold live on television. I've been a football fan for years, and I, thoroughly enjoy watching football. When I sat there watching the television and could not believe what was happening. I was 23 years old, I was living down in Brighton while I was a student, and I was screaming at the television to get the people out of there. I could quite clearly see that people were distressed and being squashed. At the time I didn't know that anyone was being killed, but then they started to say that 5 people had died, and then 10, and then 20, and it went on, and it was just absolutely sickening to see what was going on. And I remember screaming, why aren't the ambulances on the pitch? The dreadful thing that then followed a few days after was the headlines by the Sun newspaper, where they spread the lies, the truth. And unfortunately, those lies stuck in people's minds until 2 years ago, when actually the truth came out. And I'm sad to say that actually people, friends of mine who are football supporters, and this conversation came out with one person in particular after Alan Davis, who is an Arsenal fan, made a comment in his podcast. Why do those Liverpool fans not play football on the 15th of April? Every bloody year they have to remember. They're complaining about the fact that they're just a sort of like blame, miserable lot that can't get over it. And those attitudes existed because of the article run by The Sun entitled The Truth. Now, I have to be careful what I say because inquests are going on at the moment, and I could be referred to the Eternal General if I speak out of turn, but basically it is now unfolding. I said a long time ago that I believed I knew where those lies came from, but The Sun, instead of doing investigative journalism, they went with what they were told was the truth. And actually, it was a lie that, as I say, was perpetuated for 24 years. And even friends of mine thought that the Liverpudlians were just continuing to grumble about something that they should have got over. Well, finally, the truth came out, 12th of September 2012, and now the inquests are being held, and actually justice, hopefully, will be coming forward for the families of the 96, but not just families of the 96, the thousands of survivors. And I know that there are people that still won't talk about it. A couple of years ago I met somebody who was a 15-year-old lad at the Hillsborough disaster back in 1989, and he refused to talk about it. I tried to encourage him to go and speak to the new lawyers, the new truth panel that was coming out, but because of what had happened and because the lies that were told by the Sun newspaper, he just felt ashamed. And as you know, Liverpool has actually boycotted the Sun newspaper, and it's been a very successful boycott that has gone on since that dreadful headline came out. And they have boycotted the newspaper, so much so that I don't know if you remember last year when it was the World Cup, the Sun put out a special newspaper and delivered it to every single household in the country except for Liverpool postcodes, because they knew that the newspaper would be rejected. But unfortunately, some copies of that paper still went to families of the bereaved. Now, my work with the Justice campaign, I have actually met a number of people who lost family members. One lady in particular, Anne Williams, who campaigned tirelessly in memory of her son Kevin, who actually died at 4 o'clock and not at the time that was originally stated at 3:15, and she tirelessly campaigned, and unfortunately she lost her own personal life and her own struggle with cancer last year. And we mustn't forget the struggle that these ordinary working class, hard-working families who lost their children, the youngest as young as 10 years old, mothers, daughters, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, wives, husband, were killed that day. And it was an utter disgrace that the Sun, or as a lot of us call it, the scum, wouldn't actually investigate what actually happened that day and just took the word of one or two individuals who lied, and they didn't do investigative journalism to actually find out what was going on. And they lost a massive readership up in Liverpool. The sort of people that, working class people that would buy their newspaper, and good on them for boycotting it for all these years. And as I say, when the Sun, and it shows, what an incredible campaign that has been run. The fact that when the Sun gave out their free newspaper when it was the World Cup last year, that they didn't deliver it to households with a Liverpool postcode. But as I say, there were families who live outside of Liverpool who did receive that paper, and what they all did, as I have done with my paper and many other campaigners, was actually sent that paper back to the Sun, and good on them for doing that. And I think we need to keep up this protest. I actually went to a cafe the other day, newly opened up cafe, sort of near to Euston and King's Cross, and I walked in there. It's an independent cafe, and they happen to have a copy of the Sun newspaper on their tables, as many cafes do. And I got chatting to the guy that owns the place, and I said to him, I said, do you know the story of Hillsborough? And he said he was aware of it, and I said, well, do you know what the Sun did? And he wasn't really that aware. So I told him, and I left a leaflet with him and gave him some information, and actually that cafe now no longer takes the Sun newspaper, and I was really pleased to hear that. And I think we need to do this. I think we need to sort of, like, if we go into places where they have copies of the Sun newspaper, we need to sort of go up to the owners and say, look, because Hillsborough is very much in the news at the moment because of the inquests that are going on. And I think we need to continue the fight for the 96 and all the families and the survivors. They have been living this for 26 years, and we need to go in and we need to go to these establishments and say, look, do you know what the lies that this newspaper told, and please would you not take the paper. As I say, small independent places, often run by hard working people who would absolutely be horrified if they don't know. I was talking to Steve Kelly. Now, he's an Everton fan. I was speaking to him over the weekend. He's an Everton fan, and his brother was killed at the Hillsborough disaster. And he was actually saying that down here in the south, people don't tend to know, and they do tend to sort of like have copies of the Sun. And it's a continuous fight that they have, and we must continue that fight for them. He went into he was saying that he went down to visit his son in Kent, and he went to a cafe, and they had copies of the Sun everywhere, and he just walked out. He said, I cannot go to this place where they have this awful newspaper that lied about my brother and perpetuated the lies about how my brother died. So I just want you to remember the dreadful lies that the Sun newspaper told, and the fact that those lies actually meant that people didn't fully know the truth, but also perpetuated the story about what happened of the 96 that were killed, and not just the 96 that were killed, but the survivors as well. So please support the Hillsborough Justice campaign. Please do not buy the Sun, and if you go to any establishment where they have copies of the Sun, please would you go along and speak to the owners and ask them not to supply that paper anymore. Thank you very much. Justice for the 96. Thank you.